It's PYOB time! That's right, we're back with another edition of the Bassline Challenge, where I give you guys a backing track and you show me what you can do with it. Kicking us off today, we've got a submission from Kristoff. He says, "Hello Andrew, I'm excited to participate in PYOB for the very first time, which love to see new faces in here. This is fantastic. Love the idea and I'm really looking forward to doing more of this." That's great to hear. I've never really created any bass lines of my own in my couple years of playing. I've mostly just played other people's stuff, so this took me a really long time and a bunch of sweat to get going. I rarely record myself playing too, so if not for this challenge, I probably wouldn't have spent this much effort on this, and I'm so happy I did. Fantastic. And that is exactly what this challenge aspires to do, is to just get you playing, to get you out of your comfort zone, to give you an excuse to do this kind of stuff. So fantastic. Love to hear it. So with this bass line, I had to slow down the recording a bit to make sure I can keep time and put in some articulation, both of which are skills I want to improve at the moment. Now, that's fantastic. You have some specific things you're working on. Great. I chose to create a bass line that both is and isn't busy, if that makes sense. I'm trying to play at the same time when the trumpets do their fills, which might be a bad choice. You tell me. We'll find out. Whatever observations you have, I'd love to hear. Linking the recording of about 1:30 to keep it short. Thanks again for taking the time and have a great day. That is the perfect length, and I love that you had some specific things that you wanted some feedback on. That makes my job a lot easier. All right, let's see what you can do. That's groovy. That little space that you leave in there. It's really nice. No, this is really great. Nice, tasteful playing, not too many notes. It's groovy. Yeah. So that's the bit that you're talking about with the trumpets. We'll talk about that. Yeah, I love those slides up. We are starting off strong today. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for your submission. Let's jump into the specifics. Totally understand what you meant by it being simultaneously not busy and busy. Like you're putting notes in when it's appropriate and then just letting the groove breathe. Otherwise, I really loved there's the little bit of space that you would leave in here occasionally. I felt like that was really nice groove. Totally different from how I would have played it, but really nice. Where you're syncing up with that trumpet fill, that's actually super cool. I like that. I would probably like it more as like an escalation or a variation. So figuring out like a little bit more of a basic groove and then popping that in like at a random moment, that can be the right call to, sync up with those fills. I remember I was working on my very first album in college. This was years and years ago, and the producer was a friend of ours who was also a bass player, and I had this really kind of elaborate thing that I was playing during the chorus of the song that we were working on. And what he told me was to simplify that kind of notey part that I was doing and save it for just the very last time so that you kind of have this escalation towards the end of the song. That it ends up being a lot more ear catching for people because it's, different from the established patterns that you've had before. I mean, in this context, like, you're just jamming on it, and I think that that is great. But if this were an actual song, that's what I would recommend, is save those like explosive bits for later on in the song after you've kind of let yourself be sort of simple towards the beginning. And then those moments have much, much bigger impact because it just like, perks up the air. You go, oh, wait, that's different from the thing that I heard before. But solid playing overall. You've got great timing. Your articulation is really, really nice. Your technique looks really, really good on the bass. Your floating thumb, muting the strings as you're moving back and forth with your plucking hand. Really, really great. I don't have any feedback on that. I think the one thing that I would probably recommend is take a look at your bass sound and maybe add a little bit more saturation, a little bit more excitement into it. I think you can achieve that with just like a little bit of compression or even a little bit of like subtle overdrive or an amp sim or something. I think that would breathe a little bit more life into your signal and make those parts that you're playing stand out in a nice way. The tone you've got is not bad by any means, but I just think you could push it a little bit more than you have. But yeah, really, really great submission. Lots of good things in there, and I hope that we'll see you back on a future PYOB. Our next submission comes from Jonathan Davis. He says, got bored of sitting on E for so much of the form, so I reharmed some parts. Ooh, interesting. Excited to see that. Otherwise, I'm just out here trying to let go and relax enough to groove. Feedback is interesting at the very least, so hit me. All right. Well, we'll talk about reharmonization as we go here. But let's go ahead and listen and /watch. Okay, cool. Here we go. Some tasty fills in here. Love that rich pickup tone. That's nice. Great note choices. Space in that groove. Very nice. There's your reharm there. Playing that C over the E chord. Oh! That's very nice. Like that. Yeah. Well, that was really, really fun. Loved that. Fantastic work. That was really fun. I love how different our first two approaches have been. I think these two submissions just kind of demonstrate how different a song can be depending on what the bass is doing, because the tracks are exactly the same, but these have very, very different characters. So Jonathan, your reharms just every little once in a while just add a nice like bit of tension to these tracks, and I really enjoyed that. One of the superpowers of playing bass is that if you change the root of the chords, it changes the chords entirely. So if your guitarist is playing an E minor and you play a C on the bottom, that changes the tonality of that and that texture of that chord entirely, and you demonstrated that very, very well. You can get some kind of like crunchy and sort of like dissonant sounds, but sometimes like those thrown in just here and there are exactly the flavor you need. It's just like having, hot chili flakes on your pizza, or putting hot sauce on stuff. Like, it seems on paper like that would be not what you would want. Like, you want it to attack your mouth, but it actually ends up enhancing the dish as a whole. So really, really good decisions here. Fantastic playing. Really liked that burpy kind of bridge tone, the bridge pickup tone that you had going there. It makes those kinds of articulations and whatnot like stand out in a really nice way. So fantastic submission. I don't think that I have any critiques for you one bit. So well done. All right, I take it back. I remembered one thing that I would probably suggest to you, and that is get your pinky involved. You have a tendency to like curl it up or like try and just keep it out of the way, but your pinky is a very useful finger to have, and so having that more relaxed hand position so that all 4 fingers can participate is a really, really good thing. And I think one thing that might help you even further is see where your thumb is at, where it's hooked over the top of the fretboard. Generally where you want that to sit is your thumb should be kind of somewhat in the middle of the back of the neck, which will straighten your hand position out and make it so that your pinky is a more accessible finger to use in some of these situations. So that'd be my one critique. Like, your playing is really, really good, and obviously this little minor technique issue isn't holding you back, but it is just one of those things where you can imagine where it'll take you if you can correct that. Jonathan, thank you so much for your submission. That was fantastic. Great work. Our next submission comes from Simon Dumont. He says, Simon from Belgium, insert beer or waffle joke here. I mean, I like both of those things, but first time on the PYOB and first time recording myself. Wow, that's great. I'm glad that this series is pushing you to, expand beyond your boundaries. That's fantastic. No video for me, as I really don't know how to. That is totally fine. We can absolutely work with just audio. Again, there's some limitations to the kinds of feedback that I can get if I don't have video of you, but obviously audio is plenty. I used my trusty jazz bass through my Nux Melvin Lee Davis preamps that also acts as an interface, and recorded it on Audacity. For the piece, I tried to keep it quite simple while trying to come up with different lines for each parts. I also only did around 3 minutes of the song. That is plenty. Anyway, don't hesitate to give me feedback on the playing or the recording or anything else. Thank you for your very excellent channel. Aw, thank you, Simon. All right, let's take a look. Great tone. There we go. Probably want to tighten up those fills a little bit. Those held notes. This part is probably my favorite part of the groove you came up with. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Killer. Fantastic. Really, really well done. That is not a bad first attempt on this thing. So let's dive into some of the specifics here. So there is that one spot where there's this like anticipated hit, and you did it really, really good this last time through. Let me see if I can find that. Right here. So those come on the off beats, so that means not on like 1, 2, 3, 4, but rather on the ands. Ba, 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 ba. So it comes in between those. And I noticed that you had a little bit of problems earlier in the track hitting that, but you did it right there, and that's what we want to hear. Another thing that I really liked is how you just let these notes sort of ring, so you're just like holding these notes. Yeah, right here. So like holding those notes out kind of gives a nice contrast to the rest of the piece. And like I know for a fact, like if I was playing it this way, I would have the hardest time just like letting those go. So, knowing and understanding restraint as a bass player is a really, really good habit, and I really like what you did there. You do have a lot of opportunities throughout this track to tighten your timing up a little bit if needs be. I think Audacity has the ability for you to like slow tracks down, and maybe that'd be helpful in getting those dialed in just right and make sure your timing is really, really tight and on the grid. But you've obviously got some really good instincts and some good fundamentals here, and I think if you tighten up your timing just a little bit, then this will sound really, really excellent. So thank you so much for your submission. I hope that you'll come back and submit again in the future. And finally, for our last submission of the day, we've got Darius Grimmel, who is a regular. I don't know if you've missed maybe one PYOB the entire time we've been doing this, but yeah, really great to see you back here, and I think it only is appropriate that we finish this off with your submission. Darius says, this track got me hooked since I first heard it, and I'm very much looking forward to recording this. The groove, the different sections, and the drum sound of the first pickup. Wow, so fun to play to. It is a fun track. As you might have guessed by now, I'm not the type of player who is able to just drop crazy licks out of the blue. I'm much more like writing these lines than practicing them for the recording, and there's not a thing wrong with that at all. This might not be as spontaneous as to jam with the track, but I like to tell myself that I can grow more as a player this way and be less prone to play the same licks that I always play. I mean, you've described me to a T here. I think being really intentional about your parts, expanding your vocabulary through, the different kinds of licks that you come up with during the writing process, that is something that I definitely need to do, because I've found myself like playing a lot of the same little things over and over again, and I have some ideas of how to break out of that, but that's another video. Anyway, this series of challenges has been fantastic for me, and I once again want to thank you for doing this. That is delightful feedback to hear. Thank you so much for that, Darius, and I'm glad that you've really taken advantage of the opportunity of this monthly bass challenge. I think that this series has been a big growth opportunity, not just for those of you who have been submitting, but for me as well, because analyzing these things, reminds me of all the things that I need to work on personally, so it's been good for that too. Let's open this up and see Darius's submission. Darius submission? Either way, I guess. Full screen. What you got? Ooh, Portaflex on the GK. Like that. Yeah. Another bridge emphasized tone. That's an interesting bass too. Oh, that's so solid. Holy cow, man. Yeah, the bend there, that's sick. that's so nice. Ooh, syncing up with those lines, that's perfect. God, he's got such good licks going in here. Oh, yeah. So much variation in here, too. This is wonderful. Those unison licks are really, really cool. Little slap and pop there. You just little chord in there. Man, that's so good. Yeah! Really, really well done. Fantastic work as usual. I really appreciated just the sheer variety of licks that you're putting into all of this. Like, I know that those are not all spontaneous, that they're all written to be that specific way, but like that is crazy good. And adding those to your vocabulary, your repertoire of things that you can bust out is so helpful when you do start getting into the improvising things. The thing that you just want to understand about those licks is where your key center is, and then being able to move that around the neck into different keys, and then knowing, like, if you wanted to play these kinds of things into a different song, you've got to understand why they work in this song. So knowing where your key center is and like the tonality of it, all of those kinds of things can help you in transferring that into other aspects. But you've got great technique. You're looking really great. You kind of do the T-Rex arm, but I also do that. So like maybe like put your elbow up just a little bit so that you're not bending your wrist quite so much. But like I said, I do that too. I really, really loved your attention to detail on those unison lines. Like those moments where it all comes together and like the whole track is all playing that same one thing. It just sounds so like tight and really intentional and powerful. And I really, really like that. Wonderful playing, Darius. Always a pleasure to see you play. And I'm sure that we'll be seeing more of you in the future. Anyway, that wraps it up for this round of PYOB. As always, I'll have the new track posted by the time this video goes live, and I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do yet, so you'll just have to go over to patreon.com/ampthebassplayer to figure out what it is. So maybe it's a little bit of a mystery for you, huh? Thank you to everyone who submitted today. Everybody did fantastic and approached this track in such different ways, and that inspires me as well, and I hope it inspires you to pick up your bass and play something today, and maybe even inspire you to submit on next month's PYOB challenge. Anyway, that's going to be it from me. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. AMP! Yeah.